now down to crunch time. We are full into the swing, and here with the iRacing portion of qualifiers. Right now we move from APAC that we had earlier on to EMEA. The game is exactly the same. Top two are going to make their way forward to Ferrari World Yas Island in Abu Dhabi. The question will remain though, which two is what we are keeping our eyes on. I'm Jake Sperry here, bringing you the coverage with Nina, Jake, Paul, with everything sitting on these three races which are coming up. And one thing that I think is going to be so crucial, Nina, to today's running that we've got going on for the EMEA region is who wants to step up. It's going to be a case of from round one to round two, you'll have drivers who will be at the top who want to stay at the top. But normally, if you're down there a little further in the pack, wants to jump on up.
Absolutely. Who wants to step up and who's the pressure, Jake? We had a fantastic showing in the APAC region earlier, real heart in mouth stuff, and we saw people buckle under the pressure a little bit. It got to them. They let that frustration get to them. I mean, if we look this round, William Chadwick, he put in a stonking performance last round, going 3 for 3 races, with Francis McGinn keeping him very honest. Those are definitely ones to watch today, and it's still all to play for.
It very much is all to play for. We'll see how that plays out in the long and short of 3 races here today with your Ferrari HP Esports series. So we'll get that understanding of what they are trying to unlock over the course of today's action. But the one thing that I think stands up at this stage with all of these drivers, with where they are now putting themselves into, they know that this is no mistake zone. They know that they're sitting in with an opportunity of booking that golden ticket that they have wanted for a very long time. But the questions are going to be asked of them, who can step up and find those points. So now you start thinking about, well, okay, how do you construct this week of 3 that you've got going out? And when you've had a perfect round like William Chadwick had, of course, last time out at Imola, he's probably got one of the easiest jobs out there. Just stay consistent and out of trouble.
Agreed. I think he's just going to try and cruise and take it home. That's all he has to do, really. If he gets in trouble, if he gets into spats, that's where danger comes in. I think, Jake, the person who is a real target on their back is Francis McGinn. Everyone's going to want his spot.
Everyone will do. Now, as things stand, it's the top 5 from each region, so 15 spots at the dance, so to speak. We will find themselves, of course, at the Ferrari HP Esports Series Grand Finals on December 5th at Ferrari World Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. It's the top 1 from Assetto Corsa and the top 2 from Assetto Corsa Competizione and from iRacing. This is iRacing today, so we will be seeing the top 2 jumping their way forward to a LAN event final, of course, in the desert. So they will be hoping for a really, really strong showcase of what they are all about, because effectively from this point, from the 30 participants to the round 1, round 2 races, all the way to the top 5 from each region when they sit through, this effectively, Nina, becomes an audition over 6 races in the season and 3 here tonight, qualifying through this qualifying session coming up. Then, of course, the grid set by race 1 and the grid set by race 2 for race 3.
Absolutely. It's the biggest audition of their lives so far, Jake. And, you know, you've got to hold your nerve, because if you let those nerves get to you, that's where the pressure gets to you and that's where you make mistakes. It's the final hurdle, essentially, I would say.
Yeah, it's the last jump, so to speak, before you are on the home stretch and you are at the grand finals, which will prove to be a wonderful showcase to see who will get to wear Scuderia Red and find themselves with one of the greatest prizes that can be offered to anybody. The chance to drive, of course, for the Ferrari HP Esports team over the course of the next year. So there is so much riding for all of these drivers. They're all wanting to prove that they are the best out there. The one thing that they do know is that the stopwatch will never lie in terms of what they've got going forward. But when it comes to their regions, they're up against everybody around the world. So we've had APAC racing over earlier on today, EMEA, which we're at right now, and then, of course, the Americas region, which has a slightly later schedule here, Nina. So these drivers in EMEA, they effectively house the middle of this season, and they are the ones who will look around and say, this is what we have to do right now to make our effort known.
Agreed. And I think a couple of the drivers last round didn't really have the best showing. Their performances didn't really correspond with their results. So I think a lot of them have something to prove this time around. So let's see if they can make up some points.
Yep, so if they can't get the results that they want, they're going to have to scramble back and get what they want. So it's not going to be handed to them on a silver plate. They're going to need to go and prove it. And where else to prove it than Summit Point Raceway, a effective club circuit, some would say, when it comes to racing as they go through. That's where we're running right now, round 11 of 18, and they will have one more Summit Point race in the Americas region on the 5th of October. We will, of course, have running at Silverstone a little bit later on Wednesday, the 2nd of October, with Silverstone running for the Americas on the 12th, and then the Nürburgring on the 4th of October. So that will be the Friday, with, of course, the Americas region going on the 19th of October on Assetto Corsa for the last chance saloon to get their places booked in the Ferrari HP Esports Series Grand Final. We've been talking quite a bit about the differences between Imola and Summit Point. The one thing that I think we haven't really touched upon is how much more aggressive you can be here at Summit Point. Those anti-cut curbs are everywhere at Imola. Here at Summit Point, it's a club circuit. You can go and attack the circuit as hard as you like.
Absolutely, and the 296 GT3 Ferrari, they can attack the curbs on corner entry. It's what the car's built for, but it's still all about the exit and about the skill of the driver, whether you can stabilise that car early on and minimise the impact on acceleration.
Well, if they can get that acceleration, it's going to be key. And here across the main circuit of Summit Point Raceway, they have three. They have, of course, the Jefferson circuit and the Shenandoah circuit through the wagon turn, which is going to be one of the key ones to get correct. That's so momentum-based. That carousel proves to be important. And then, of course, the paddock turn, which ends out the lap. You have got to be dancing through that section to get that launch over to the loop, the opening corner of this circuit. And, of course, that long carousel proves to be a case of keep yourself in play. Watch out, though, for the chute, though, today, Nina. That's one that has certainly been keeping drivers honest with the way that they've been running. They'll need the traction control in their machinery, their Ferraris here today. But the one thing I think they're keeping in mind is how much work a track like this actually is. It's not plain sailing. You really do have to make sure that everything falls into your hands.
Constant attentiveness, constant what's the word I'm looking for? Concentration. The circuit is both technical in high-speed maneuvering and braking. It's a track that demands constant concentration and commitment, Jake.
It certainly will have that concentration and commitment factors that we will see. Is not necessarily many places around the circuit to rest, because you're always constantly working on the steering wheel from about turn 4 onwards. So entering the chute all the way out at turn 9. That's probably the only time that drivers get a true break around this track, and a circuit which all of these drivers will have grown into and understood from the very beginning of their sim racing careers on iRacing, with circuits like Laguna Seca being very similar in that mold. And you look around and say, right, this is a circuit where you need to apply your skills. What is this sort of circuit that allows someone from the very, very beginning of sim racing to understand what needs to really happen around here? And I think the big important fact is you've got overtaking zones, and it offers almost every single type of corner.
Offers everything, Jake, if we're being honest with you. I mean, overtaking is possible here, very much so on the straight down into turn 1, and then if you're feeling brave later on in the track, diving into a few corners. But let's not lie, it's a very narrow track. So we saw earlier in the APAC region, Sotomato, he didn't get it right in the braking down into turn 1 and when he tried to overtake Cody D for the lead. So it's important to be super precise and super attentive.
Yeah, this is a racetrack of fine margins, and they get a lot more finer than you would see at other circuits around the world. This is one of those circuits which is effectively old school in the sense you don't have a million miles of runoff area. You've got grass and you've got gravel. It is what you call traditional out there in terms of how you get it wrong and what is your pitfall if you get it wrong. And in certain areas of the circuit, we've got what is known as the void out there, the trees that line the circuit out of turns 1 and 2. If you fall down through there, you're immediately reset back to the pits, and there is not much more that you can do. They will, though, have 7 minutes worth of qualifying here, Nina, to put their times together, a maximum of 2 laps to put on the board to set their best times out there. And one of the things with a session length of that long amount of work they've got to make sure they're absolutely on it. But one thing to keep in note, this is qualifying with everybody together, which means that when the clock strikes 7 minutes, that will be it. They will have not much there. Let's talk championship for a moment, though, Nina. William Chadwick clear at the moment of Francis McGinn. He's got 21 points in the back pocket, but we're seeing no David Toth and no James Armstrong, which means it will be Dom Roberts who will be the nearest challenger. And look how far he sits behind second position. He's got 31 points to chase.
He's got a big job to do, does Dom Roberts. However, it's not over. If Francis McGinn has a bad showing and Dom Roberts has a great 3 races, then he could very much provisionally be going to the grand final, Yas Island Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi. So it's all up to play for. I think, like I say, Francis McGinn does have a big target on his back because, let's be honest, William Chadwick, he's got a huge lead. He's going to be off into the sunset, very much in cruise control. So let's see what happens.
Yep, so you had the likes there of Andreas Bachmann a little bit down in the points, but all of these drivers are hoping to try and gain something more. The blue, of course, of Hewlett-Packard, they're being represented by Francis McGinn at this moment as he looks to gear up for a flying lap here around this circuit, and we'll see what he'll be able to do. His first lap officially is a 1:11.0, but as he looks for the brakes in towards the opening corner, you can use the tarmac there, the different colorings there as your real line marker guide through the opening section. And now as that corner, that loop longs forever, you just have to stay as wide as you can on entry into turn number 3 out on track through the wagon bend. Very easy to clip the grass if you're not too careful. Then dance down at the chute, find the right braking zone for you and tiptoe through into this next section, what is effectively the outfield section. You've got that long sweeping carousel that goes on for forever and a day, 109 kilometers an hour on the throttle, and then dancing through the S's, which is turn 9 out on track, the finish of that section. Back onto the power and slightly down the hill. Use the bridge as a marker. It sets you up wonderfully here for that paddock turn, which ends the lap. Keep it out the gravel, and the lap will be absolutely fantastic. Francis McGinn over to the line, 1:07.3 the benchmark.
Oh, beautiful lap there, Jake, wasn't it? And drivers have said that driving at Summit Point can be challenging, with some saying it's like falling out of a plane with no parachute. So the left-handers in general can be super tricky with the track falling away from you. If you get on the gravel or the grass out of the corners, even if it's just a little bit, you will lose momentum. As we saw earlier in the APAC region, it's a momentum game here at Summit Point, Jake.
It very much is. Osman Aslan Set moving up to third fastest on a 1:07.5. That's a great time. He jumps the likes of Dominic Roberts and Agustin Talashi out there. So we are seeing those times come in, and it's so too from Obeid Salem, who moves into 7th place with that time on a 1:08.223, just short of Dorian Lelivre, who is out there in what is 6th position with the qualifying efforts. It looks like the only driver who has not chosen to set a lap time in that early foray is Mikhail Boucher, so he will make sure that everybody else will have to wait out there in terms of time. We know that he can jump the position if he can go faster than Christian Betas Begalin, who has got a 1:20.2, which I don't think is a representative time, Nina, but you look at Boucher here, he has got the whole world looking at him right now for his laps, and his first was a 1:12.3, but that would have counted as his out lap.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a short qualifying here, Jake. Like we say, it's very difficult to get into a rhythm, and often you want that muscle memory of a circuit to be able to just go and unlock it and attack it. So that's where the hours and hours of practice comes in, like in the last couple of weeks. So we'll see who's been putting in their homework and who hasn't.
Yeah, this is all about studying the circuit. Where can you attack? What gearing do I want to be throwing going down into these corners? Where can I find a little bit of an advantage? Hugging the curbs nicely, but running a little bit wide there. Unable to get that car to turn with a hint of understeer through at turn 5, leading through to the carousel and trying to dance through the corners, the left and the right end of the chicane. And Mikhail Boucher continues on to try and hope that he can leapfrog Andy Armianu and the likes of Ludovic Faviet, who is there up in front. So this is where you get to see whether Boucher has the time that he hopes. Heading over towards the line, 1:08.3, so a leapfrog those two. He'll be just about 600 short of Andreas Bachmann out there. So Bachmann's going to hold on for that position, which will mean that your top two in the championship will line up 2 and 1 on the front of the field. Francis McGinn ahead of William Chadwick, with Osman Aslan-Sert in third and Augustin Tolashi in fourth position. It will then be Dominic Roberts and Dorian Lelevre, with Obeid Salem, Andreas Bachmann, Mikhail Boucher, Ludovic Favet, and then you got Andy Armiano and Christian Betash Begalin making up then your field here for racing in your Ferrari HP Esports Series. So perfect qualifying for Francis McGinn. If you're the driver on the bubble, so to speak here, Nina, you are the benchmark that everyone's trying to beat. You can't do any better than P1.
Yeah, he's gone out, he's done his job, isn't he, Jake? What goes through your mind if you're William Chadwick? Do you go on the attack and try and overtake Francis at the beginning, or are you just coasting?
Well, you got to think big picture in a championship like this. William Chadwick would love 4 straight wins in this series, but sometimes that's not the goal. The end goal is not to win all 6 races, it's to qualify inside the top 2. So if I was William Chadwick, I'd be very trepidatious on whether I would attack Francis McGinn in this race. I would look behind at Dominic Roberts and think, well, if you're 50-odd points back of me, my job is to make sure that you stay 50 points back of me with 2 races to go, because at that point, William Chadwick guarantees his space.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But in the other sense, these guys are racers, Jake, and sometimes they just want that win for their ego and their pride. And we saw that earlier in the APAC region with Sosa Musso. He went after the win each race when he didn't necessarily have to. Provisionally, he would have been going to the final if he just stayed in second place each time. So let's see, maybe some maturity comes in here.
Well, that's the sort of characteristic that you'd be looking at here if you want to win the Ferrari HP Esports Series and to become a Ferrari HP Esports driver. You need to have the opportunity to say, you know what, I can put results before pride and ego, and that it could be the difference maker between being at, of course, Ferrari World, Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, or being on the couch come December 5th. So now, as they set themselves up and get ready, we will have ourselves a wonderful run. It will be 15 minutes worth of racing each. You'll get 45 minutes of racing action. Nina, let's get a prediction. Who's on your mind for victory?
I think William Chadwick. I think he's going to take it. Even though he doesn't have to, I reckon he's still going to go for the win. What about you?
Well, I can't look past car 12, who has certainly looked quite quick, but Francis McGinn will need to find the ability to break away. The stopwatch doesn't lie. He was the fastest driver in qualifying, so he's got the best possible opportunity of victory here today in race 1 out of 3. But you are going to have to watch and wait for that, because these drivers are just getting themselves set on a short pace lap here, so they'll get the final corner to get those tyres up to temperature, which is not long at all, and immediately the iRacing sedan pace car will pull off into pit lane, which will lead the field in control of car number 12, who will wait for the green flag to drop and that ability to go racing here at Summit Point Raceway. 15 minutes starts now, and they get themselves underway. It's a horrible start from the second row and pushing 4 tyres in the grass and around. Oh my word, Dominic Roberts is taking huge risk early in this one, side by side into turn 1, and Francis McGinn can't do anything about Chadwick on the outside, and Roberts gets turned in the background. So suddenly Roberts, after making that huge move, is now right down to the back in P12.
Goodness me, I almost thought they'd have an air of caution about them, Jake, because it's only race 1, but Dominic Roberts, he had to go for it, and he knew he had to go for it because he could smell second place there, but unlucky for him.
Yeah, that's the pitfall. Be aggressive off the start, and drivers will just look around and say, what can you do? It was a little deep into turn 1 there of the loop, and as such, he now falls right to the back of the field. A perfect scenario for these two, William Chadwick and Francis McGinn, knowing that their nearest rival here today is down at the back of the field, and it looks like he'll be struggling to score some points. And they've already got 1.1 seconds here, these two, over Osman Aslan-Sert, who finds himself in third, Augustin Tolashi in fourth, Dorian Lelevre in fifth position. And again, it's all about being reactive to the starts. That's the big difference maker we're seeing.
Absolutely. It happened again in the last round as well. William Chadwick's done so well. He done everything he needed to do to get ahead of Francis McGinn. Now all he needs to do, Jake, is keep his head down. I reckon if Francis McGinn starts attacking him and starts squabbling, he should just let McGinn pass because he doesn't actually have to stay ahead of him.
Doesn't have to, but of course he'll want to out there as we watch with Obeid Salem from Club International here in iRacing. He now thinks about whether he can find a way through on Dorian Lelivre, who is there just in front in the number 23 machine from Club France. So now you get the sense that this middle of the pack is certainly staying condensed right now. Red and yellow as far as the eyes can see here in the middle, with the likes of Mikhail Boucher in there. Andreas Bachmann hasn't made progress, but Boucher up 2 places off of the start. He's one of the bigger movers off of the early stages of this one, going along, of course, with the likes of Andy Armiano and Christian Betas-Begelin, who are both +2 in this one as well.
Yeah, Boucher had a great start, and the midfield, like you say, is really bunched up. It's really tight. So now we're just going to see if anyone's able to actually make up a nice amount of places and make their way up to podium positions.
Oh, that's close there. Dorian Lelivre leaving, I would say, racing room, which is about 0.9 of a car width into the opening corner. So that could have been a case of knocking a couple wing mirrors off of the sides of these cars. And out there, that could have been so much worse out there. I have seen some tyre tracks down at the wagon turn. So I wonder if Ludovic Verveet has gone into the barriers. I think he did on lap 2, which means that's why he's come down into the pits for the one fast repair to go get back out and racing again. That fast repair here, Nina, is effectively a T car. It's a spare car to say jump in, continue racing.
Oh, nice. I bet other racing wish they had that, just a spare car to hop in and jump back out. I think, they've got to be careful. They're coming out really punchy compared to the APAC region this morning. Really punchy, really aggressive, but they don't want to end up like Dom Roberts, make a silly mistake and right at the back of the field.
No, they really don't, and Dominic Roberts, of course, will have to try and gather that back up. Here is Obeid Salem looking to the inside on Dorian Lelivre, who I don't think can do anything about this into turn 1, but how deep do you go if you're Obeid Salem? He'll now have to defend the wagon turn, because as they dance, it's going to be front to rear, and the tiniest of little lifts from Dorian means that he will allow that to go through and that pass to be made, but he'll pick up the run off the exit. Watch out though for McGinn. He gets really close to the back of William Chadwick through the chute and into the outfield section of the carousel. He is definitely thinking about, I would say, victories here and trying to punch his ticket with the maximum amount of points possible.
Absolutely. I think he might be a little bit frustrated that he lost the lead at the start as well. He had pole, he did everything right, and he did lose the lead and concede to Chadwick. So I think he's trying to do revenge right now, Jake. He's trying to get that lead back.
I think he is. William Chadwick is a driver who has been on the scene for a number of years, has certainly proven his ways, especially when it's come to the endurance racing scene on iRacing. He has been someone to keep in mind in GT circles. You look at Francis McGinn, he's definitely looking to try and say, I've got something to prove against the driver of the caliber of William Chadwick, who leads this one. Osman Aslan Set, certainly no slouch as a driver, and Talashi has certainly been out there and proving what he's got to. And look at that, a little bit of kick up then from the gravel. We'll see quite a bit of that, but this is the early stages of the race, and I believe this is what happened to Ludovic Verveet out there as he went through. So Verveet, he got the grass on the entry there, Nina, and it's a complete tank slapper as he just had nothing to work with.
Absolutely. I mean, getting on the grass or gravel can make you lose momentum, but that completely spun him out on that occasion, and it's small, fine margins, Jake.
Yeah, it's the small things that create the big things on this circuit. This is precision that you need around this track, more rather than anything else. Already 1/3 of the distance through this race, and it's currently in the hands of William Chadwick at the moment, but that group of 2 is fast becoming a group of 4 if they're not too careful. Mikhail Boucher is now starting to think whether he can find his pass. Dorian Lelivre is going to have to leave the door open, because through once again will go through, and Boucher blocks the apex in the middle of the corner, gets it stalled up and makes sure the pass is confirmed.
What a beautiful clean move, and that's exactly what he needs to keep doing and try and make his way up to Salem now and just try and make up as many positions as possible, because remember, where they finish in this race determines where they start in the next race, so these positions are crucial.
They are, and especially around the mid-pack, we're talking a whole row's worth of difference between being in P6 or P8 by comparison. So someone like Andreas Bachmann will be certainly hoping that he can jump up through the order and get himself a prime position starting for race 2. But as we were saying, keep an eye out nearer the front as we go on to Andreas Bachmann. At this moment in time, Bachmann from Club Scandinavia is hoping that on the back of this group, he can make that leapfrog happen. He's just looking for place upon place, and you sort of got to have that mentality, surely, do you, Nina, of one at a time when it comes to a multi-car group?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no! McGinn, around contact with Chadwick, almost a carbon copy of what happened earlier in APAC, but McGinn will be able to keep going, and look at how many places he drops.
And he's got a target on his back, didn't I say, Jake? Because he's not completely safe in these standings. Very much all to play for, and that's exactly nearly the same mistake that Sosomoso made this morning. So now he's got a whole load of work to do to try and make up those points.
Now, crucially, he remains ahead of Dominic Roberts by about 5 seconds here. So his, I would say, immediate challenger out there is not going to be in his mind at this point. But Augustin Talashi is 5 points behind on that, and now he's up in third, scoring 15. McGinn, currently in 8th position, he'd only be getting 4 championship points, so a 9-point swing in the back pocket of Augustin Talashi would be huge in the context of his championship push right now. Dancing through the final corner, there's still half a race yet to go, but William Chadwick has been allowed a bit of clean air to go out there and work with, and suddenly we are getting to see the pressure factor here in this series. McGinn from a league back dives down the inside, trying to get Andreas Bachmann sorted. Bachmann on the outside has a slight wiggle as he puts the power down. Will he keep the nose in, heading to the wagon turn? He doesn't. Move made.
Yeah, good. That's what he needs to do. He needs to just keep calm, and that move will give him some confidence now, give him some motivation. You know, he can make his way back up through this pack. He just needs to stay focused and get his head down. And like you say, he is ahead of Dominic Roberts. That is the most important thing, his closest championship rival here. So that will also give him some relief, and he can just get his head down.
Well, Roberts now into championship paying position. Not points, he'll need to get to 9th place for points, but he's got a point in 10th position as he's made the pass on Christian Betas Begalin. So he's been able to get that sorted. McGinn now, I'm not sure whether he'll be driving angry at this point or he'll just get himself reassessed with confidence, because he now knows he's got to get past Le Livre, and he will have to get past Mikhail Boucher next in terms of his targets out there. Car goes off in the background. I think that was Begalin potentially who was running that little bit wider. And look at this again at turn 1. Door left wide open by Le Livre there. That is so cheeky by Francis McGinn. He plays on the fact that the spotter here in iRacing has that tiny little bit of leeway when it says car on your right, and that is what he played with to try and get down the inside.
Another great move. Door left open, as you say, a bit later on the brakes, and there you go, a nice clean move. And all this is going to do is give him confidence that, you know, he can get these overtakes done, and he can get them done cleanly. Now he just needs to make his way back up through the pack. But I think his frustrations are probably settled down now. He's settled back into race mode, and he's got his head down.
Well, it's all about focus here, and if you can get that focus, these points will start racking up. Boucher will promote him from 8 championship points to 10 championship points in this race, and that will certainly continue to dent the damage that Augustin Talashi can do, which would only be to pull 5 points back of him at the moment. Remember, Osman Aslan Set will also be taking 18 championship points as things stand. That's going to be huge. Dominic Roberts has himself a chance. He's got Andy Armiano there just in front of him. He's thinking about it inside, outside. Oh, he's everywhere in the mirrors trying to find himself an opportunity, and he'll still try and snake around the outside, but he just runs out of grip.
Unfortunately for Dom Roberts, he hasn't been able to make up much places since his dramas in the first lap, so I think he'll be getting a little bit frustrated all the way down the pack. Currently sitting on 1 championship point, like you say. He's got a lot of work to do, Jake.
Well, the issue he had is that he was 7 seconds back of the pack before, just after his spin on lap 1. It is such a tough task for him to try and bring that back, and he's so tight over the curb. You can see there the front left wheel popping up there, Nina, taking away that grip, and was unable to put the power down to really attack the carousel as he much wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Lee's Ferrari 296 GT3 cars, they are good on tyre wear, but like you say, you've got to be careful, otherwise you will just wear those tyres out.
And these 296s follow on, of course, from the likes of the Evo versions of the 288 that's just been out there, and we've seen some wonderful machinery out there. Trying to go left, right, up, down, picture in picture, as we see Francis McGinn on the left-hand side trying to find out. There's no way through Mikhail Bouquet. Over on the other side, though, Dominic Roberts again tries to work the Oracle on the outside, but he finds that he can't quite get it again. It's just perfect placement by Andy Armianu, but hold on to your hats, because he thought about the wagon bend, but thought against it because he wants drive here.
Goodness me, and Francis McGinn, he's very much a man on a mission, Jake. He is making up as many places as he can, and two right as well. He wants to try and get back up to those podium spots.
Well, he'll know that he's running out of time for that. Armianu again defending at the carousel. Oh, this is some fantastic stuff here between 4 great drivers in 2 separate battles out there at the moment, with Roberts trying to chase down as many points as he can, with McGinn trying to build his margin as much as he can, keeping in mind Augustin Tolashi and Osman Aslan-Sert at this point, side by side to the paddock. They go in the right-hand side of your screen. Armianu loses out to Dominic Roberts. Outside line then for McGinn as he tries to get it sorted. Pinched every single stage of the way, grabs a little bit of grass over the curb, and can he get the drive off the exit? He's got the wagon turn in his back pocket if he wants it, with 2 laps to go, surely. And there's the move that Francis McGinn have been working for 2 laps to sort, but he's still not done yet, because Bouquet might try and come back, and he still, Boucher, can't quite get what he wants.
He's driving for his life, is Francis McGinn. He's dug deep, just like what champions are made of. This is what you have to do. You have a wobble, you dig deep, and you go again. That's exactly what he's doing. Back up to 5th position now. He just needs to keep chipping away, position by position.
I tell you what, it was a very good defence by Boucher, but he couldn't quite manage it against a driver of McGinn's calibre. That was still a great effort, and it's kept Dorian Lelivre away. It's kept Andreas Bachmann away at this stage as we sit, now with 2 laps to go, as we had a minute and 13 over the line, a minute 20 over the line as they go through. A lap around here is about a minute 8 that we've been seeing right now. Top 3 have stayed relatively calm afterwards. Chadwick's been able to pull away, but these are some big points for Tolashi and Osman Aslan-Sert. They're definitely trying to mount a late charge.
Yeah, absolutely. They've benefited off of others' misfortunes, and that's how it goes in racing sometimes. People have wobbles in front of you, and you pick up a nice haul of points. This has just relit their championship for them. Chadwick, on the other hand, is absolutely laughing. Over 3 seconds ahead of second place. He's cruising, Jake.
He's cruising, and he will know that with the way that it is all added up, he has got this one in the back pocket for a place, and he will be looking at that with a grin from ear to ear. Dorian Lelivre heading over towards the final lap very soon, realises that he's been very passive in this race, Nina. What does he need to do to become the aggressor?
He needs to get more punchy. I think there's just been an air of caution about him. Race 1, he didn't want to stick it in the wall or stick it in the grass or the gravel, but I think maybe race 2 is going to come back, reset, and be a bit more punchy.
Well, there we see Barney the flagman waving the white flag, which indicates here in iRacing we've got 1 lap to go here at Summit Point in race 1 here of action that we've got going on. We have hit the timer, and that will mean that it is all about getting as far forward as you can as we focus on the lever, trying to make sure there is something of anything to be made to gain an extra place out there on his rival out there, Mikhail Boucher. And Boucher, I think, has just done enough to build that margin of about 0.6 of a second, and it continues. But what more can be said about William Chadwick? We will say provisionally at this point his place is going to be secured, because he has just stepped up and said, you know what, I don't just want 3, I want 4 straight wins. William Chadwick on his way to victory. Osman Aslan Sert will take second, and Augustin Tolashi will be the last driver on the podium.
What a showing from William Chadwick, Jay. Absolute domination masterclass. He had to work from it in the beginning, mind you. It wasn't just given into him on a plate, and he showed up and he showed out.
That is simply put what you wanted. We saw there the likes of Dorian Lelivre have a little bit of damage there to the front splitter there as he went through. So he's obviously clattered a curb somewhere around the lap. These drivers do have to be a little bit cautious in that sense. But William Chadwick picking up the victory. Osman Aslan Sert is second with Augustin Tolashi in third. It's then Obaid Selim in third with Francis McGinn in fifth place out there overall. And then you've got Mikhail Boucher in sixth, Dorian Lelivre seventh, Andres Bachmann gets to eighth place with Dominic Roberts only managing ninth but 2 championship points, and Andy Armianu, the last driver to pick up a point. It's then, of course, Christian Batash Begalin in 11th and Ludovic Favietz who will be there in 12th. The championship looks like this now. William Chadwick is safe with his margin 100 points clear. Francis McGinn will look around and see it is Augustin Tolashi he's got to worry about, who sits at 29 points behind. So Tolashi, to keep his hopes alive here, Nina, needs to outscore Francis McGinn here in race 2 by 4 points.
Absolutely. Francis McGinn has way more to lose now. He cannot afford to finish down the grid in races 2 and 3 because, look, he's got Tolashi right behind him. And all it takes, like you say, is him outscoring McGinn on the next 2 races, and his place is at risk to the grand final.
Yep, so he can't afford a second race like he did the first, the likes of Obaid Salem moving up then to 9th position. And we saw Oslan Aslan Sert as well making progress. Andreas Bachmann moves to 12th position, and a lot of different point scorers here. Dorian Lelivre now getting his first 6 points of the season, and Mikhail Boucher getting his first 8. So points are rather crucial. They're picking them up quite quickly here in the Ferrari HP Esports series, and that is going to be big to say, you know what, I finished in my region, in the final of my region, the Ferrari HP Esports series. I finished 3rd, 5th, 7th. It is still an accolade and achievement at the end of the day, and it does help to build the confidence.
Absolutely. Even to make it this far, Jay, to make it this far in the competition, and you know, you're competing against some of the best drivers. So it's definitely an accolade. It's definitely something to be proud of and pat yourself on the back for.
It certainly is. Race 2 will be on the horizon, and Osman Aslan Sert will be hoping that on that front row he can mount a challenge to William Chadwick in a way that he wasn't quite able to in race number 1. So they will now roll off once again and look at this opportunity that presents itself. We've noted how important these starts are going to be and how important it is to be alert to when the green flag drops, because once green goes, you can go out there and attack and try and make overtakes. We've seen that with Dominic Roberts in race 1 trying to jump the gun, so to speak. Keep an eye on that as they wait for the green flag. Chadwick with control of the field. Green flag in the air, and we're racing here in race 2 of 3 tonight, and immediately 3 wide in the middle as they all funnel 2 wide. The pinch between Tolashi and Aslan Sert is there, and Aslan Sert making heavy brakes on the outside into the opening corner. Chadwick will be unchallenged. Obaid Salem has to be a little bit cautious because here comes Francis McGinn over on the outside heading towards turn 2. He's not going to back this one down as they head to the wagon bend.
Brilliant start. Nice and clean this time, unlike the first race. Nice clean start, dream start for Chadwick, and that's all he needs to do now. Get his foot down, create some distance, and yeah, go off into the sunset.
Well, he doesn't need any more places than this. He will be through provisionally if he can manage to hold it where he is, because he's only 1 place behind Augustin Tolashi, and that will mean that he will stand needing 2. Oh, it's trouble. Mikhail Boucher is in the barriers at turn 8, we're hearing, so he's gone way backwards in the field. He's damaged the front. Dom Roberts has made some good progress out there. He's moved himself up a couple. He's now 7th, eyeing up 6th.
Unlucky for Boucher there. He touched a good race, a solid race last time around, picked up some solid points, and whatever happened there, I'm sure we'll get confirmation. He's just made a mistake, and now he's at the back of the grid.
it sounded like to me that he went wide out of the carousel and had to jump back up over the circuit. And when he got that influx of grip of the tyres landing back on terra firma, he just spun all the way to the inside, and that was where his dramas were, in the pit, not what the doctor ordered. So now there's questions here for Augustin Tolashi when he's got Francis McGinn bearing down, because he knows he needs a car in between himself and McGinn almost pushes him there through the middle of the corner of turn 5. So this is where he's going to need a little bit of help here, is Tolashi.
Absolutely, he was pushing him along there, Jake, literally. What goes through your mind, Jake, if you're Francis McGinn at this stage in the race, when technically, you know, you have provisionally secured your spot to the grand final, are you still going to fight and try and get to the top?
Well, it depends if he knows that or not, where he sits at this point. He's going to go out there and race, and the only way he can confirm it is if he goes ahead. There will be slipstream from Osman Aslan set in front, and that's what Augustin Tolashi is looking at here. And you're seeing drivers moving out then, 2, 3 different drivers looking for that move. McGinn throws it in, and look at this. This is cheeky from Tolashi. He's trying to pick up the run, but McGinn just gets a great second phase of acceleration and holds what he wants. The lever loses out to Roberts, who's now 6th, and I believe Bachmann's continuing on with Armiano in 8th and 9th, but Francis McGinn, he is absolutely trying to get more than what he's looking for than just a position. He wants to try and disrupt an undefeated streak.
Absolutely, he wants to win, doesn't he? He's going for the win. That's exactly what he's doing. He's got a calm head, he's making clean moves, and he's making his way, Jake, up to first place.
Oh, he is absolutely making his way forward. He is thinking every single place is just one step closer to Chadwick. There is Ludovic Verveet, who sits in 10th position and is hoping that he can get a little bit more out of this, because he's got Andy Armiano there just in front that he's trying to get through. But look behind that is Christian Batash-Begalin, who is hoping to try and make some moves. McGinn with the fastest lap, a 107.278. You can tell it's in purple out there. A fastest lap for a driver will be in green. A lap time that is not as fast as what they've done previously in white, and almost for Christian Batash-Begalin, a move on Ludovic Verveet.
Yeah, almost there. He's nearly got him. I think if he just keeps with him, you know, doesn't make any mistakes, he'll be able to get him.
Well, it's all about being mistake-free, and as they now crest the small rise here over towards turn 4, up over the top of the crest, through the chute, and then you've got to try and make sure the car's settled. Look how early they're having to hit the brakes, because they know that it's a downhill braking zone, and the one thing that drivers want working with them is gravity. You don't get that there, but there's a mistake by Armiano, straight through. Verveet is going to steal one then on the exit of the carousel.
Verveet said, thank you very much, I'll take that, and now we need to create some distance and go after the next car, Mr. Bachmann.
Yeah, so Andreas Bachmann, it's a huge gap by comparison, though. You look at it, it's 3 seconds to chase down, so lots of work for Verveet out there at this point. And there is Michael Boucher, who's back out and racing again. He's taken his fast repair, and ultimately he's now 27 seconds down on the main pack. He's effectively half a lap behind your race leaders as things stand. So for Boucher, it's going to be a case of no points for him at the moment. He needs some drama if he wants to score a couple more and improve on the 8 championship points he has in the back pocket so far tonight and for this season. But I am noting the gaps. We take a little look at what happened to him here. So he pushes on the curb, now tries to attack off of the exit, and he almost just drifts out. He just loses it there, goes over the bump, and then nowhere to go for him as he joins back on the circuit, and that influx of grip just pulls him over to the left-hand side.
I tell you what, he's lucky he didn't take anyone else out with him. I think everyone else should count their lucky stars as well, because it was so close when he swung back onto the circuit. Unlucky for Boucher, really unlucky. But it's important not to get disheartened, because like you say, you don't know what's going to happen ahead of you, and anyone else has dramas. So just keep your head down and stay focused for Boucher.
Speaking of keeping heads down, McGinn is the fastest driver on track. Osman Aslan Sert was the second fastest driver on track that last time by. He took 15 thousandths out of the 1.1 second gap that William Chadwick has at the front of the field. And well, can you blame him for trying to run this quick with Francis McGinn bearing down? Here is Obaid Salem, who is hoping that he's got something here on Augustin Tolashi. 4th position. Tolashi now up to 3rd position in the championship with the likes of David Toth not here, neither is James Armstrong. So now Tolashi is picking up the charge of best of the rest, and he's realizing that that blue car in front, that blue Ferrari, is starting to disappear into the distance, pixel by pixel.
Absolutely, he has to pick up the pace and try and stay with him, doesn't he? But Francis McGinn is keeping Sir very, very honest. I think it's only a matter of time till he's right on the back of him, Jake.
Well, this is where time is of the essence, because they're not even halfway through this race, and there's been so much that's been going on here in this race number 2. So with all of this going along, they're thinking about halfway here tonight and what they can do. Osman Aslan Sert is currently going to put another 18 points on the board, and he's looking to try and leapfrog a little bit further and try and keep Francis McGinn honest, but he's nowhere near in a close enough position to make a championship push at the moment. He might look at what he's doing and say, I'm throwing everything I can at this, but Francis McGinn here, I think, is locking it down at this point, doing what he needs to, but we'll see whether he gets close enough to go out there and be aggressive, and whether he's learned from the mistakes he made in race number 1.
Absolutely. He might just be saying, you know what, I'm happy with 3rd place, and if an opportunity comes to me by someone making a mistake ahead of me, then great. And if not, I'm not going to make a silly mistake and end up at the back of the grid again. I think you might be right, Jake.
Yeah, so he's got that gap down under half a second. Osman Aslan Sert starting to fall away. We talk about the rubber band of slipstream, and traditionally it's 1.5 seconds. You fall outside of that, you lose that benefit, and there's nothing you can do on the straight. So 7.5 for Chadwick and 7.6 apiece there. McGinn has pretty much hit that wall at about 0.6 of a second, where it becomes very difficult to try and claw on in, because you're driving in a different car's dirty air. Not as much as a Formula car, which has to be said, but you know, when you've got a spoiler there on the rear wing there, and you've got a little bit of aerodynamic effect, it does play a tiny bit of a factor, and you can see McGinn having to understeer as he goes through at the wagon turn. That pretty much meant that he had a car more like a wagon than he did a prancing stallion.
Yeah, absolutely. And these Ferrari 296 GT3 cars, they're quite good on tyre wear, but the conditions of this track, the temperatures are high, and they are still going to wear. McGinn was very active in the first half of this race. He was making up a lot of moves in a lot of dirty air behind other cars. So I think, yeah, his tyres might have dropped off a little bit.
That could definitely be a factor to it, just pushing too hard too early, trying to gain those spots, and he's up 2 from 5th over to 3rd, and maybe has just run out a little bit of steam there. You can see the windscreen wipers going there to try and get rid of the dirt off of the screen, and now as they look to go, you're definitely seeing those times. They're dropping by about 1/10 of a second a lap at this moment in time. That just shows you how hot the conditions are and what they're dealing with those tyres. They were running consistently in the 107.5s just 3 laps ago. Now they're on to 107.7s, and Dom Roberts, I think he's got his eyes set on, can he get forward and can he gain a little bit more out there. 108 flat from him on his last lap. He's looking at Obaid Salem and Augustin Tolashi if he can possibly make it.
Yeah, he's not far off the podium positions, Dom Roberts. He's only a few positions away. He needs to get his head down, because I don't think it's over for him yet. If he can just focus, make up a few positions, it could all change for race 3.
Well, he'll be looking to try and climb as high up as he possibly can now after what wasn't the greatest race 1 out there, and it might just have to be, in terms of a Dominic Roberts race, him just trying to get what he can out of this one. Nobody at the moment has the ability, we believe, to stop Francis McGinn from booking that final golden ticket from the iRacing region of EMEA, with 1 race remaining here at Summit Point Raceway. But it does depend on whether McGinn wants to go up against Osman Aslan Sert and make the move. On the brakes once again, using the cones as marker references in towards the opening corner. And again, Dom Roberts is not there, using those featurage marker boards to try and get that sorted. McGinn through the wagon turn. He's very much there with Osman Aslan Sert. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to go and make a lunge.
Yeah, absolutely. He's made up some time on him, hasn't he? It was about 4 or 5 tenths, and now he's around 2 to 3 tenths. So definitely don't count him out for making a lunge. Will Chadwick, I forgot he was in this race, Jake. He's completely gone off into the sunset. Not getting much airtime at all, but I don't think he'll be complaining.
Well, it's the biggest compliment you can get when you're in a racing series like this, and you're out there in the front, and there's no pressure out there on you, because the cameras won't go to you because you're doing such a good job. There's no action there. We'll go look everywhere else where they're trying to decide everything anything else, it's a compliment for William Chadwick and the way he's been driving. Francis McGinn now gets himself a launch, and Osman Aslan Sert runs middle of the road. Do you want to go inside or outside? Inside or outside? Inside or outside? You have to go outside, Francis, if you want to get this move done. Little bit of contact there, and McGinn somehow keeps it on the island. Oh, Wilson, that was very nearly a big moment out there for Francis McGinn. Nina, that's the sort of risk that we weren't expecting him to take.
Goodness me, I think I was holding my breath, Jake. I had to remember to breathe when he came out of that corner. I think he needs to be careful with these risks because it's just not worth it. It's not worth getting into a big collision and dropping down 10 places. He's quite comfortable here in third. If the opportunity presents itself, then go for it. But if not, don't take silly risks.
Well, Francis McGinn is a racing driver through and through, and I don't think he's going to want to wait for that. He will realise that Augustin Tolashi hasn't really gone anywhere from behind him. He's still in fourth position, and he still needs to pick up 4 points on Francis McGinn heading to give himself any hope, so to speak, of making this happen here at Summit Point. But again, Osman Aslan Sert keeps himself in line, keeps himself in the middle of the road. This time he doesn't feel like there's anything that's really happening to him right now, so he sits and waits, and it looks like we may have had troubles for Ludovic Verveet for the second time in 2 races. He's back down in the pits.
Oh no, poor Verveet. I'm not sure what happened there, but he's not had much luck this race. And that's how racing goes sometimes. You just don't get much luck. It just doesn't go your way, Jake.
Well, it looks like he's just had a spin out of turn 9 and he's hit what is known as the void. He's gone through into the trees and he's been reset back to the pits. Defensive line taken by Osman Aslan Sert. Oh, Francis McGinn is looking here and there and everywhere to try and get this done, but Osman will not move.
Absolutely not. He's got all the answers, and hats off to Osman. He's doing really well. Great defensive driving. Currently, McGinn hasn't got any answers for him, and I don't want him to make a mistake out of frustration, Jake. That's the thing. You get frustrated, you get impatient, then you start putting a wheel wrong, and then you can spin and make a mistake. So it's important to keep level-headed here.
Oh, a little bit of a push into the gravel there on the outside by Osman Aslan Sert. He immediately goes to the right-hand side of the circuit. You can definitely sense his confidence levels are not as there as he would maybe want to. And he slightly pinches as he moves across and takes the middle of the road through the opening corner. Blocks the apex as he goes through. But McGinn gets better drive off of the exit. Now here comes the chance to the wagon turn, but you're going to have to go the long way around, Francis, if you want to make this happen. And Osman Aslan Sert buckles and says, you know what, I'm going to take the inside line and I'm going to hold on. He tightens up his buckle, so to speak, as he goes to make that happen. Osman Aslan Sert is holding on because he knows he's got 1 lap after this.
Yeah, he's done so well, Jake. This defensive driving is absolutely amazing. He should be very proud of himself because Francis McGinn is not making him easy for him. He's having to work really hard for this second place. But hats off to him, he's doing a great job.
And look at Osman Aslan Sert. Look how hard he's battling. He has brought that 2-second gap between himself and Augustin Tolashi down to 1 second, and looking around the diving turn, they're going through the paddock turn for everything, and almost runs into the back of him. Has to lift off on the final lap of this race. Osman Aslan Sert is doing everything in his power to try and check up Francis McGinn to give himself any hope of this one working. Hard over to the outside, and again he's going to have to lift off, and Tolashi now joins the scene, hoping he's got an opportunity now to get something sorted on the final lap of race 2. He needs 4 points over Francis McGinn to keep his championship hopes alive of a top 2 finish. But as they now run for the chute for the final time, Osman Aslan Sert takes the middle of the road. Francis McGinn gets close once more, and Tolashi moves to half a second behind. But has he run out of road to make anything happen? Because Osman Aslan Sert is desperate to stop Francis McGinn. Remember, Tolashi needs McGinn in P5. That's his hope. There are no worries for William Chadwick as he is going to throw up 5 victories in a row, and this time he'll flash the lights and say that one was dominant out there. There's the drive behind over towards the line. Aslan Sert's going to hold on, and provisionally Francis McGinn will book the second ticket.
And breathe. My goodness me, what a final lap that was, Jake. My heart was very much in my mouth, and Francis McGinn Ozan Sert gave us a great show. What a fantastic last couple of laps those were.
Well, you got to try and throw what you can at the wall, hope that it all sticks, and ultimately it did do for Francis McGinn as he gets exactly what he wants from it. William Chadwick with the victory, Osman Aslan Sert second, and then Francis McGinn in third from Augustin Tolashi, Obaid Salem, Dominic Roberts up to sixth position with Dorian Lelivre seventh, then Andreas Bachmann, Andy Armianu, Christian Betas-Begelin, Mikhail Boucher, and 4 laps down, Ludovic Faveyet, then out of the race with 4 laps to go. That puts Francis McGinn, we believe, through with 25 points remaining for that final race. And that's going to put a really interesting spin on this final race here, Nina, because this one is for bragging rights.
Exactly. This one is for bragging rights. It's for brownie points. It's just for confidence if you're going to that grand final. So I think he's going to try and want to stop William Chadwick for getting 6 out of 6. Do you think he can do it?
Well, that's going to be the question maker. Osman Aslan Sert moves to third in the championship, then on 48 points, but he's 31 behind Francis McGinn, which provisionally we call that as official in the Ferrari HP Esports series, that Francis McGinn will book that place through. But 6 out of 6, Nina, you ask? Well, we've seen one 6 out of 6 already here today with what Cody Deeth was able to do. It's definitely not impossible, and it would certainly say that William Chadwick's got something to prove. I wonder what you'd say about that.
I reckon he'll definitely want to get 6 for 6 just to go to that grand final provisionally as a winner of 6 out of 6 races. However, I think Francis McGinn is going to make his day very, very hard.
You look around at drivers who are not here today, like Ryan van der Grijp, for example. He will be stuck on 18 points, so a chance for the likes of Andreas Bachmann to jump up. Dorian Lelivre has a chance with his 12 points he's scored here today. The likes of Mikhail Boucher down there on 8 points is trying to jump Miko Suriano by comparison, and hope that his work is going to be sorted. But there is still one thing to sort out, and that is whether we will see back-to-back streaks of 6 out there overall, with of course one final race of 15 minutes which comes along here in the EMEA region for iRacing. There are still 2 European splits, or EMEA region, so to speak, the region of Europe and Africa, and a little bit of Asia as well, actually, you can put there in that as well. And that's going to be crucial because you've still got Assetto Corsa Competizione. You've still, of course, got Assetto Corsa, which will have to be decided over the course of this week, and of course the Americas region, which will run a little bit later on in terms of its timings. But with one final race, you sit down, William Chadwick hoping for 6 of 6. The one real challenger we've seen to Chadwick so far here, Nina, has been Francis McGinn, and McGinn is directly behind him.
Exactly. It's going to be a big showdown. Like you say, it's for brownie points now. Who's going to take this final win? Is Francis McGinn going to end Chadwick's winning streak, or is Chadwick going to hold him off? I think we're in for a good show here.
I think we are as well. Slow launch and getaway from Osman Aslan Sert as the iRacing pace car for the final time will pull off into pit lane at the paddock turn out there on this circuit. The final corner out there. It's all about launch then for the one final time. Put 15 more minutes on the clock. It is streak or no streak for William Chadwick, and they get themselves underway in racing. Osman Aslan Sert didn't get the most auspicious of starts, which allows Chadwick the racing lines he goes through. Now there'll be a dive surely by McGinn as they go through, and they almost push Obaid Salem into the barriers at turn 1. That could have been disastrous, and wide will be pushed Osman Aslan Sert. He'll lose out then for second. He might lose out for third if he's not careful, because that's Augustin Tolashi on the outside, hoping he's got a way to go through, but he grabs grass and round he goes.
Oh, what's your there? I thought he was going to get him. Oh, and now his whole race is just ruined. He's got a whole lot of work to do now, Jake.
Yeah, right down at the back. He'll know how Dom Roberts feels out there, as he's now got to try and claw his way back through this one. Osman Aslan Sert now in third. Dominic Roberts in fourth position, just there behind him, and hoping that he can go through with Obaid Salem in third. Chadwick, your leader, by half a second then here on this opening lap of the race, but they are now starting to try and settle down and find that rhythm that they've tried to do on 2 occasions so far, and now over towards the third. Look how wide they are forcing themselves to push. They know how important the draft is.
Absolutely, they're pushing hard. It's don't want it to turn into carnage though. But you know what? Dream start from Chadwick, just what he wanted. Stayed ahead of everyone. McGinn got a great start as well. He's up into second place and he's going to keep Chadwick honest. Do we think McGinn can get Chadwick?
Well, that's the question. I tell you what I found really interesting there. Obaid Salem on the front stretch tried to use every trick in the book to distract Dominic Roberts to make that move. He was flashing the lights, not in a case of, I'm angry with you, but in, can I get you to make a mistake? Once upon a time, Nina, I knew someone who decided that he wanted to map his headlight flash button over to his brake. So every time he braked, he flashed in the mirrors of all of the drivers in front of him and effectively try and force a mistake that way.
Ooh, tactics, Jake. It's mind games, isn't it? Psychological pressure, psychological games. All of these things come into play when racing.
Yep, so when everybody is racing up at these high levels, they know that they have got to go to every single phase of preparation to try and make something happen. And if they want to be a little bit cheeky about it, they certainly can out there at this point. 1 second broken by the front two to Osman Aslan Set. So Osman Aslan Set in third position now, has to look behind Dominic Roberts and co. But Dominic Roberts has got his own issues right now at 0.8 of a second behind Aslan Cert out there at this point, because Obaid Salem is hoping that he can find a way through and jump up through. Back to the front though, and your two qualifiers through provisionally, William Chadwick and Francis McGinn. McGinn's got one goal and one goal in mind, and that is, can he spoil William Chadwick's party of 6 straight?
Oh, absolutely. He's trying to spoil his day, but it's important not to make any silly mistakes like in the first race, because he doesn't want to end up at the back of the grid. Even if he is provisionally through, mathematically, you just don't want to finish, this round at the back. At least you want to finish in the podium points. So it's important, if the move does present itself, to take it and to take it cleanly.
Yeah, and it's that clean factor that's important. The contact that those two made in race 1 certainly put a lot into perspective. A little bit of defending back there for Andy Armiano as he's got Mikhail Boucher trying to find that pass. This would be for 8th position if this move were to go through. And on the outside, the pinch is there, but it's not quite enough. Look at them trading paint as they now look to try and find that angle to go through. You can't put anything between them. They're racing that close. Now through the wagon turn. Look at the drive off the exit. Armiano with a hip check to hold station.
Goodness me, just a little kiss there on the side of the cars. I'm surprised it didn't come off worse. But, I would say harsh racing, hard racing, but, they made the move stick.
Yeah, that was some fair racing between them. They were giving exactly what each other wanted there, which was a tough fight for position. And Boucher is going to have to do it again against Andy Armiano, but they are getting stuck in a quagmire, so to speak, with the drivers in front, because Dorian the Lever has now got 2 seconds in the back pocket. So now they're seeing that their hopes of getting anything more are definitely being dashed by the fact they're having to battle so hard. Once more, onto the front stretch, looking towards the loop once more, all the way to the inside, almost dipping tyres in the grass. You can't get much closer than that for Mikhail Boucher, and Mikhail says, that is mine. I will not let that one go this time.
Yeah, lovely move. Just about got it done by the skin of his teeth. But yeah, now he needs to make it stick and go off into the distance.
He's got to try and run away. Oh, and Armiano runs a little bit wide. And we'll look behind because you've got the driver there, Ludovic Verveet, who will want to try and get through and actually get a finish here today. He's struggled so much to get that. But back up to the front we go. And when you've got Francis McGinn in this sort of form, he's certainly going to want to prove it. He brings the gap down to 1/4 of a second, and he might realise he's got a shot here.
Absolutely. I think Chadwick had it a bit too easy the past couple of races, and now he's going to actually have to work hard for this win, because I'm sure Francis McGinn will stick with him and keep him honest through the entirety of this race, Jake.
Talashi also trying to look for places as he's got his eyes set on Christian Betash-Begalin as they go through the final corner there, the paddock turn, and over towards turn 1. Betash-Begalin dives over to the inside to make sure that he covers off the line, and Tolashi waits and waits and waits, and he's going to try and pick his pocket through the middle of the corner, but he caught too much curb, and as such he can't get the run out of 2. It's held quite nicely there by Betash-Begalin. to make sure that there was no way of that going through, and that continues on in through turn 3 at the wagon turn, and he thought left, he thought right to try and go through, and around the outside of the chute. Oh, they've made contact. Begaline's going to go straight on. Straight on's going to go Augustine Talashi. A disaster for the pair.
Goodness me, and they're both trying to get up to the points. They're both at the back of the grid. They're both fighting for everything. Essentially, Jake, they have nothing to lose. If they, bump into each other, they're both at the back anyway, so they've got to go for it.
Well, neither one of them wants to be the wooden spoon here in this race. That much we can say, but that just goes to show you they'll fight for every position here in the Ferrari HP Esports series. Back to the front, McGinn, again, just stalking and shadowing here against William Chadwick. He's not wanting to make that move just yet here at halfway. He realises now that he's got to be a bit patient. He can't just go merrily waltzing into an overtaking attempt with William Chadwick, because he knows he may come off second best.
Absolutely. I think it's important not to show Chadwick all of his overtaking moves or where he's going to potentially pounce. Just bide your time, stick with him, play those psychological mental games, and then pounce kind of when Chadwick least expects it.
Well, William Chadwick has seen it all. He has done it all. He has got a wonderful palmarès, a record of what he has achieved in sim racing, and he is looking to just continue on with that, to say that he is a finalist, but he wants a perfect record to go in with 150 out of 150. Even Cody D, with the penalties that he picked up in the APAC region, can't say that he can manage that. But Francis McGinn says, you know what, I want to see a little blemish on that record. Not just yet, as they go 500, 400, about 300 meters. They hit the, 300 feet. They hit the brakes and try and get that launch, that turn in through the corner and escape once again down the road. But once more, it's about what McGinn is willing to do and how long he is willing to wait.
Yeah, exactly. And what does William Chadwick want to do here? Does he want to fight for his life and try and get 6 out of 6? Or is he quite happy just to be like, you know what, Francis, go bye. I'm tired.
No. I don't think William Chadwick is ever going to be tired of winning. That is something that is not in his DNA, as he now looks to try and run through the S's of 8 and 9. I think William Chadwick knows that he wants a good fight. He's been waiting for this for about 3 whole races for it, and he's finally getting what he is looking for. It's also worth keeping in mind that Dominic Roberts isn't necessarily able to shake Obaid Salem in 4th and 5th positions out there, so there's still some great points to be had in the middle of the pack. But once more towards that loop again, and William Chadwick here is just keeping Francis McGinn at an arm's distance here. It's to say, no, you will not get past me. You will wait your turn, and hopefully your turn comes around never.
Yep, hopefully your turn never comes. It's interesting because he's pulled out a little bit on McGinn now. He was 2 tenths, it's 3 to 4 tenths now, so that's all he needs to do. Try and create some space, and it takes the pressure off him just that little bit.
Well, pressure is something that is applied. It is also completely internal as you try and put that through. A driver can try and enforce pressure, but it's you who feels it at the end of the day. Talashi once again on the back of, and this time Andy Armianu. This would be for a point. So Talashi's really worked hard after the contact that he had going through the chute with Begaline here to get back to point-scoring positions.
Yeah, he's really dug deep, and rightfully so. That's what these drivers have to do. They're racers at the end of the day. They're going to dig deep, and they're going to try and make up as many positions as they can.
Well, they want these positions, and Talashi is really trying to show his hand to the inside, getting in the mirror, trying to get that half launch, uses a lot more of the circuit than what Armianu is able to do, pulls alongside, and at the moment going through the gears, 248, 250. 2 it was in the end for Talashi before he jams on the brakes and moves around the outside of Andy Armianu for a championship point.
What a beautiful move. He got the slipstream as well with the car in front of him, so it just gave him a little bit of extra speed. Great move, and that'll do wonders for his confidence. So hopefully he can make up a couple more positions.
Well, that's what he's hoping for, because he knows he's got Ludovic Verveet there just in front, the 27 car, which is there. That will be the next target, and then it's 5 seconds over to Mikhail Boucher. He's running out of time, so I think the best he can hope for, really, is 9th place in this race if he's looking for anything more that he can get his hands on. And at the moment, I think that's going to be his main focus out there in the context of this race, making that look over towards the paddock turn, the final corner out there. And for Veyert, you take a look at this, Nina, I think is going to have to go really defensive early. And again, we might see a picture-in-picture once more, a case of a carbon copy, but he lifts out of it before they even reach the corner.
Actually, he just said, you know what, left the door open, there you go, flashes his lights. Tora Lashley's a man on a mission. So, you know, well done for him, hats off. Like you say, there's quite a gap between him and Boucher now. So let's see if he's able to close it a little bit. But I think 9th place might be the best he can achieve today.
Contingency has now been reached for these two drivers. They've got a 4-second margin over Osman Aslan Sert out there in 3rd place. So Francis McGinn and William Chadwick now have just themselves to deal with at this point. This is what you call a showdown. It is streak versus no streak at the moment. Will the streak go to 6 for William Chadwick as he looks to be the second driver to do so, the first to score maximum points?
I must say, Francis McGinn has put on a great show for us this today, Jake. Absolutely amazing driving. Made a little mistake on the first race, but what a comeback drive.
He certainly has done a wonderful job of pulling back those points. He was down to 8th place, recovered back to 5th, 5th to 3rd in race 2, 3rd to 2nd, and he wants 1st, and he doesn't get the drive he wants there through the wagon turn. And again, it builds that margin back up once again for William Chadwick as they sit just under 2 minutes to go here in your EMEA region. He's starting to think about, what more can I do? I have stared at the back of the yellow Ferrari at this point for too long here in this race. I want a little bit more than that. And can I uncork that one overtake that's there, using the downhill and the slipstream to move to within a 1/4 of a second, and once more we'll search.
He wants the win, doesn't he? He wants all this work that he's put in this round to be worth it and walk away with at least one race win and provisionally go to that grand final with a race win in his bag. What do you reckon? A couple of minutes to go. Jake, can he do it?
Oh, he's trying everything there. He goes really aggressive into the corner, hoping to get that done. And remember, 3rd's not out of the question either in this race, because Dominic Roberts has caught the back of Osman Aslan Sert. So we might see that 3rd position is not a done deal either. Back on the charge over towards the chute once again. Is there going to be anything more of a look then by Francis McGinn as he again can't quite get the angle he wants on William Chadwick? It's very tough to pass a driver, Nina, of Chadwick's caliber when he can just attack every apex to what seems like near perfection.
Absolutely. He's in complete robot mode almost. He's seen it all, done it all. He is just driving essentially in cruise control. He knows what he's doing here. Every move that McGinn is pulling, he's seen it before. He can defend.
He certainly can. Dom Roberts, who of course started at turn 1 here today at Summit Point, facing backwards, has had to work his way back up through the field, might be able to snatch a podium away from Osman Aslan Sert as the last lap starts here at Summit Point. He's not close enough yet, though, to make that move, and Osman is going to have to be very, very choice with what he wants to do about this in the final lap. Every braking zone, I'm sure the nerves will be jangling, the legs will be shaking, and making sure it's there. The lights are flashing. He's trying everything here as Dom Roberts to find that pass, but he's not getting what he wants. William Chadwick, by comparison, is just again keeping Francis McGinn where he is in 2nd position. There may not be a fairy tale at this point, but William Chadwick is driving with that professionalism that he has shown so much when it has come to his racing, why he has been so good when it comes to his foray and challenge, and he knows that he is sitting on the cusp of perfect because he's one paddock turn away from making it happen. It's 0.2 of a second heading through. The lights are flashing. He knows he's got it. William Chadwick is the absolute perfection of EMEA. 6 of 6, and major props as he walks his way to December 5th.
Sheer domination. What a masterclass from William Chadwick. He had to work for it. It wasn't handed to him, Jake. And boy, did he come out and he gave it everything he had. Really, really happy for him. Great driver and very well deserved.
It was a stunning display of driving, one which he knows that he can frame as artwork over those 6 races. He wins by 0.2 of a second over Francis McGinn, with Osman Ajlan cert in 3rd and Dominic Roberts in 4th position. Give some credit to Obaid Salem. He had a 4th and 2 5ths, and you can see what that has meant for the points. It means that William Chadwick walks through with Francis McGinn. Osman Ajlan cert will be in 3rd in the championship, with Augustin Tolashi doing a great job to be in 4th, with Dom Roberts remaining in 5th despite his efforts of recovery. Obaid Salem 6th, and then of course the 2 drivers who didn't turn up today in David Toth and James Armstrong, 7th and 8th for them respectively in the 1 and 11 machines. The likes of Andreas Bachmann will be happy with his points haul. He'll get 9th in the championship, and so too will Dorian Lelievre. He will certainly be someone hoping for a little bit of a boost from what he's been able to do. It's a tie for 10th for him. He'll be classified as 11th as he goes on through with his performance. But Nina, that simply put is a William Chadwick masterclass. It wasn't flashy in any way, shape or form. He didn't need to wow. He didn't need to do anything that lit the world on fire. He was just solid as a rock and insanely fast.
Solid as a rock, insanely fast, insanely precise, great concentration, great focus. I can't fault him, honestly, Jake. Brilliant, brilliant drive from Chadwick.
And it's pretty much having 2 opposites, basically, because Francis McGinn, well, he was full of character with the way that he was driving there. He was making moves. He wasn't afraid. He likes to go out there and be aggressive. It's a completely different style of driver to what William Chadwick is. It will mean that he will fall into pitfalls from time to time, but look at the way he recovered.
Brilliant recovered drive. Honestly, maybe my driver of the day, actually. Actually, no. Well, it's between him and Chadwick. But for his recovery drive, really, really good. He kept his head down because it was easy to get disheartened. And he came back, and he came back strong.
So now the question I ask you here, Nina, is December 5th. Ferrari World, Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. What do you think is going to be the biggest difference between William Chadwick and Francis McGinn here, racing virtually against each other, between them looking over the room at each other in a land setting?
The whole different bag of nerves that come into play, isn't it? Because it's a whole different set of psychological games, really, because your competitor is right there. He's not, a million miles away in a different country. He's right there. So I think they're going to need to come and they're going to need to have practice. They're going to need to know this track like the back of their hands and come prepared.
Well, that preparation is going to be key. They will have themselves 2 months to make sure that they are in top shape for what is to come on December 5th in the Ferrari HP Esports Series. The grand final, of course, over at Ferrari World, Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. There are still going to be 7 different races where we will crown a further 11 different places to try and get everybody in and over the line to know who our 15 are going to be. You do not want to miss that with us, of course, with Ferrari on YouTube and Ferrari Esports on Twitch. From our partners, of course, Santander, Bitdefender, Thrustmaster, Richard Mille, and Next Level Racing. From Nina J. Paul, who has been out here with me, my name is Jake Sperry. What a show of racing we have seen out there. Perfection is reached for the 2nd time today with William Chadwick up at the top, but the personality of Francis McGinn cannot be understated. 2 very worthy drivers from EMEA and iRacing will now head to Ferrari World, Yas Island in Abu Dhabi. They know what is at stake. They want to wear Scuderia red, and the quest to become the next Ferrari HP Esports driver is in full flow. We will see you very soon.